Leap into learning literacy with tips from Camille. Today is a presentation for children about dyslexia. Let's look at the word dyslexia. Let's start with the base word. That's in the middle. It says lex. That's talking about words. It's relating to the words or vocabulary of a language. Then, if we look at the prefix, which is at the beginning, it says dys. Dys means difficulty with. Difficulty with what? Well, what the base word is. Difficulty with words. Then we have the suffix which says ia. That ia means disorder. Dys again, even though it's spelled differently, difficulty with order. Difficulty with order of words, order of letters, any of those things that have to do with words. It's difficult. Well, what's going on in the brain? Let's look at the different parts of the brain. This is a nice rainbow colored picture just so we can clearly see what areas of the brain do what. We have 4 areas in the brain that are called the cerebrum. Let's go over each one. We'll start with the purple area. That's the temporal lobe. It controls speech and hearing. If you notice, there's an oval shape in the middle. That's language and reading. Those are our language processing centers. They take up a portion of multiple areas of the brain. It's not just one little part that helps us with language, reading, and spelling. It's multiple. This is one of them. Speech is part of it too, and so is hearing. Then we have the frontal lobe, the blue part. Well, that's our personality. And it's also thinking and planning and problem solving. It doesn't appear that the language processing centers are using that part of the brain, but you'll see in another picture of the brain that a little bit of that is being used. This part, the cerebrum, the parietal lobe, controls movement, sensations like pain, taste, touch, speed, and writing. That's the yellow part. Then the dark pink of the cerebrum, the occipital lobe, controls our memory, sight, and smell. Well, we can already tell by some of these, well, we need memory, we need sight, we need writing, we need a little thinking, of course, and planning, and even problem solving, and we need speech and hearing. All of those are involved in the language processing centers, and it takes place in this area of the brain, which includes most of those. The other areas aren't as important in language, but let's just go over them quickly. The cerebellum controls movement, balance, and muscles. That's the teal area. The spinal cord links the brain to the rest of the body. Then we have this yellowish green, which is the brainstem, controls all the automatic things such as circulation. Well, let's look at the differences between the brains of somebody who has dyslexia and somebody who doesn't. Let's first of all go over again what dyslexia means. Difficulty in learning to read and understand numbers and other symbols, but it does not affect general intelligence. Dyslexics are incredibly intelligent, and some of the most famous people in our world who have done amazing things are dyslexic. That's the next slide. Let's look at a non-impaired brain. That means someone who does not have dyslexia. From the previous picture, you can see that these are the areas of the language processing centers. This is a non-impaired brain, and those areas are being lit up. Those areas include, as we mentioned earlier, the parietal lobe, speed and writing, the occipital lobe, memory, the temporal lobe, speech and hearing. And then we've got this, in this picture, it's teal, and the other one, it was blue. This area is where we're doing our thinking, our planning, and our problem solving. All of us use that area, but do you realize how big that area is in the dyslexic brain? That's why we get so many creative people who are dyslexic, or so many people who invented things that are dyslexic. They're always thinking outside the box and always being creative, way more than the average person in the population. So it is a gift to have dyslexia. Let's look at some famous people who have dyslexia. There was Albert Einstein. He was the physicist who invented the theory of relativity. A U.S. President, George W. Bush. John Lennon, founder of the Beatles, still classic. Whoopi Goldberg, an actress. Steve Jobs, inventor of personal computers, and even in sports, Magic Johnson, NBA basketball player, and Walt Disney. There are some other ones too. We have Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, who in my day, or when my kids were young, of course, that's the Pirates of the Caribbean. There's many others movies that they've been in too. But some people say that Keira Knightley is so creative because she has dyslexia. Orlando Bloom, who has it too, says creativity is the key for any child with dyslexia, or for anyone for that matter. Then you can think outside the box. Teach them anything is attainable. We have Richard Branson, an entrepreneur. Being dyslexic can actually help in the outside world. I see some things clearer than other people do simply because I have to simplify things to help me, and that has helped others. Here's a poem. We are all different. We have different hair, different eyes, we like different foods and different stories. So why in the world would we expect everyone to think and learn the same way? I like to say that if children can't learn the way we teach, then we need to teach the way they learn. And I'm not the original person who said that. But teaching kids with dyslexia needs to be done in a diagnostic. That means you got to figure out what their challenges are, diagnose, explicit, be really clear in how our language works using the 6-syllable types, rigorous. They need to be responding to questions a lot so they can develop new neural pathways in the brain that will go to the language processing centers. That can happen if you are using a multisensory approach using a structured literacy curriculum. This has been proven with the science of reading by scanning the brain. They scan the brain prior to any type of intervention, and they see that it is the frontal lobe that is lighting up when they're trying to process language. Then they give them a period of intervention of a structured literacy curriculum. If it is rigorous, explicit, multisensory, and they're able to respond to many questions, they are developing new neural pathways in the brain. They rescan the brain and they see that the language processing centers are lighting up. It's like going down a road and it's blocked. So what do? You go another route, get where you need to be. And that's how kids need to be taught, using different methods as mentioned. Kids can improve as much as 1 or more grade levels in a relatively short period of time. It exercises your brain and makes it strong in reading, writing, and spelling. If you would like a free consultation, copy this link down and book one for me. I'll be the one talking to you, and you have a free consultation to talk about the reading, writing, and spelling challenges that someone you love or yourself may have. Hope I talk to you soon. Goodbye.